so delighted to be here today with a dear friend of mine, Nodi Ipp from Cape Town, South Africa. And before we get started and having Nodi share his story with us, he's just going to give us a background of how he came into the Virtues Project and a little bit about himself. Nodi?
Thank you, Dara. I was in Australia. I was teaching at Riverland School in the 90s, and about 95, I think it was, we got a professional development day on the Virtues Project. It was obviously very early days of the Virtues Project, and we had this wonderful session. I was very confident in myself, in my knowledge of the virtues, but I must say when I came away from that, I was very much humbled because of what the Virtues Project gave me. It gave me the language, the tools to take into the class. From a sentiment of positivity that I wanted to have in my class, I suddenly had these amazing words, this beautiful range of humanity that the Virtues Project offered me. And so I started at the time, immediately I just went into the class and I turned the language around. I started with acknowledgements and put the charts up, and within a short while, then probably a few weeks, months, the parents were saying to me, what are you doing differently in your class? And that's really where the beginning was in 1995, before I'd met Linda, before I'd met Dan, and the Perth community was already had already started and was quite strong. Well, I never met any other Virtues Project facilitators at that stage until much later, quite a few years later.
And I see how enthusiastic you are about it, and I'm curious, what age group of children were you working with at the time?
Okay, I was working with grade 1, 2, and 3 in a Montessori-based environment, and the timing was quite remarkable because I had with my daughter, we had a lame duck which arrived on our doorstep, not quite on our doorstep, but we did a project on farming, and we had these ducks in a little pen outside, and one of them actually gave birth to and sat on them, but she was a young duck, and she didn't look after the ducklings once they were hatched. So Natalie, who I was working with at the time, we took these ducklings home and we put them into incubators and we looked after them. My daughter, one day, Misha, came to school and she put these ducks in the water to swim. Suddenly, they were all clambering and shouting and trying to get out of the water, which they couldn't do. And when we got them out, 3 of them were lame. It was a really strange thing. 2 of them regained their use, but there was a tiny little one going beep, 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 beep. She was so sweet. And I said to Misha, you know, we vegetarians, I've just started teaching virtues in the class, compassion, kindness. What are we going to do? We're going to have to look after this little creature, which we did. We took her home. I had this name. Well, at the time we thought it was a male and called him Igor. And that's a long story, of course. Igor survived for 3.5 years. I took Igor backwards and forwards with me to school every day, and the kids looked after him. At the time, I'll call it her. And it was all about the virtues. We talked about compassion and kindness and helpfulness and service, and they really loved this duck. She lay there, and I'd have to clean her every day, wash her, put her in the pool. She would flap her wings and flap around, and then she would nearly drown and we'd save her again. But it was the most amazing thing. And one of the very first Virtues Project talks I did was at a Montessori international event in 1998. So that was when it was, in 98, when Igoria was around. And I had actually one of the children come to the talk in Perth and brought Igoria into the group of 25, and this little boy, his name is James, and he told everybody how we use the virtues to look after Igoria. It was one of the most lovely moments of, hands-on, practical, concrete, real-life compassion.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that story of compassion. And I'm curious as to whether you've heard from some of these students that were with Igor and when he made his transition to Igoria, I guess when you found out that he was a she. Have you talked with them over the years and how they're living their virtues?
I haven't, but I mean, I came back to South Africa in 2004, and I have had some contact with some of those kids on and off. In fact, two of them actually, as 16 and 14-year-olds, attended the two-day character workshop, Awakening the Gifts of Character, that Jill Kennedy and myself ran in Perth in 2008. That was a great joy because I had taught these two girls as grade 1, 2s, and 3s. And there they were with their mom. They came to 2 days and they gave their wisdom. It was absolutely beautiful.
Wow.
They had known Gregoria at the time. And but the others, I can't say that I have kept in contact. It's just been too far and too long now.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? Just what a gift to have those two young people grow up into teens and to know that you helped to awaken those gifts of character within them so early on. And since we're both early childhood educators, we know that really it's that foundation. So that when we can use that language, when we commit to using the language of virtues, when the children are young, they know who they are. So when they grow up, they're more likely to call on those virtues as skills instead of being blown off track to be tempted to do things that are not in their highest and greatest good.
Yeah, and it just gives them that range of choices as to, what can I do differently? How can what can I call on, which is my inner belief system and my inner value system and my inner virtues.
Yeah, absolutely.
The bare bones.
So you've been steadfastly committed to this Virtues Project, and you have demonstrated such incredible creativity and love and compassion. Your poetry that you write just touches me. I read it and I get teary. And I know that lately you've been doing some work that's a little bit different than the work that you were doing when you first came into the Virtues Project family. And you shared with me that the overarching virtue of the work that you're doing currently with one, I believe it's one, maybe several special people, has to do with the virtue of trust. So before we share that story, I appreciate your patience. I'd like to share the virtue of trust with everybody. And what we're going to do right now is I'm just going to share the Virtues card. This is one of the Virtues reflection cards. There are 100. And we in the Virtues Project family, we read these cards on a daily basis as a way to strengthen not just our understanding of the virtues, but also helping us to make it a language and a lens. So here is the virtue of trust. I'm going to rearrange Nodi and put them up there. Okay. Trust is having faith, hope, and a positive outlook. Trust is believing in someone or something. We have confidence that the right thing will come about without trying to control it or make it happen. We trust others to do what they say they will do and give them the space to be trustworthy. Sometimes it is difficult to trust when life brings painful experiences. Trust is being sure in the depths of our being that there is some gift or learning in everything that happens. We move confidently with the flow of life, gathering strength from adversity. We know we are never alone. And then the quotes on the Virtues cards come from a variety of people, places, religions, cultures, and this one comes from the Hindu faith. Trust in the Lord and He will guide you aright. One who has this trust need fear nothing. He can be in perfect peace and happiness, for he will be guided aright. And the practice of trust. I maintain my hope. I do not nag others or try to control them. I believe there is some good in everything that happens. I allow trust to heal my fears. I am confident in my capacity for lifelong learning. I rely on divine assistance. I am thankful for the gift of trust. It renews my strength. So Nodi, tell us how this virtue of trust is related to what you're sharing with us today.
Okay, I'm going to go a bit. I'm going to go back again. I remember when I was at Riverlands, people asked me after my growing success in the creating this environment and building the individual up from within intrinsically by acknowledging the range of their qualities. I did a few talks, and I remember one of them, a person came up to me afterwards and said to me, "Tell me, in what way is trust a virtue?" And I thought, of course it is a virtue. And I remember since that time, it hasn't been as simple. It's trust is one of those strange virtues that that depend on the way you are. You can't trust someone without experience. When I came back to South Africa in 2004, the first day at a new school, I told these children about the virtues and all the different things, and about linear thinking brains and creative thinking brains, and I built up this atmosphere of understanding in this first day. And at the end of this hour of my telling them, I said to them, so who trusts me now? And probably about 3/4 of them put their hand up, and the other one, some people were a bit shy and a few didn't. And my answer to them was, well, those that didn't put their hand up are really being honest with themselves, because I'm glad the others and everybody wants to trust me, but actually the reality is I will have to earn your trust by being the person I say I am. And every day you're going to look at me and you're going to see if I live up to being trustworthy, and then you will give me the trust. And I'm happy to say that by the end of that year, I had made breakthroughs. I had what I call flattened the hierarchies, the power structures. The bossy types had become more leader types. The shy types had become more assertive. And those are the two key dynamics in classrooms, I think. And other people had started to come and watch me do the virtue gems, which everybody loves when you acknowledge an individual, and everybody has the opportunity to acknowledge them. So that trust theme really goes back even to Igoria the duck, who was totally dependent on us completely for her survival and care. Even had a vet who couldn't believe this duck could have survived as long as it had, and had done so well. And she took this duck to have her back x-rayed, and she found that the one nerve to the movement part of her legs had been damaged. And this duck completely loved our family and the kids. Most of the kids, she'd quack a lot, but when I saw her, she'd make these strange bleating type sounds, and I'd stroke her, and every morning, until the one morning when she laid an egg. He laid an egg, and Igoria became Igor and Igoria, because we didn't realize it. And there was she laid about a few eggs during her lifetime.
So what a beautiful example of her trusting you. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to take a YouTube break, because we're going to cut the video here, and then we're going to come back for part 2.